This has got to be one of the strangest beefs in rap history. Not because of the people involved, not because of how it ended or how it's going, because you never know when this is going to end, but because of the methods used. Drake and Kendrick used some tactics that we've never seen before, some that we have, but all in all, it's looking like we're headed down a dark path. I won't go too in depth with, Drake's beefs with other people because he's got a lot of those. But what we can do is think about previous beefs, the methods, the tactics, the records, and everything in between. And we can compare that to where we are right now in this Kendrick and Drake beef. Think of any notable rap beef. Jay-Z, Nas, Tupac, Biggie, 50 Cent, Ja Rule, Meek Mill, Drake, Nicki Minaj, Lil Kim. And that's just off the top of the head. There's so many more examples. Honestly, but the running theme in all these is that no matter how far the records got, like how much they didn't like each other, it usually stayed on brand for both parties. Either I robbed you, I shot you, you're not really gangsta, I had sex with somebody you love, I influenced your style. Something along these lines is 90% of it. And maybe I'm mistaken, but as far as I know, it's never gotten to the point where it violated certain unspoken rules. There's no rules in war, but honestly, there's rules in war. And these guys did not play by any of them. Hence the creation of cancel rap. Before we go any further, I'm going to disclose I'm a Kendrick fan, but I'm going to stay impartial here. So it starts with Kendrick Lamar, as usual, being a very prodigious, just proud hater. Anytime there's somebody that he doesn't like or there's something that he needs to get off his chest, he will gladly and proudly say it on wax. So this whole affair started with, I guess, a line on First Person Shooter where J. Cole says, "Is it K-Dot, is it Aubrey or me? We the big three like we started a league." Now, that's not a diss, but somehow it got, misconstrued in King Kenny's head. I mean, maybe it didn't. Maybe he just wanted to let it be known that it does not matter at all to him what J. Cole thinks he is. While it is important to note that Rick Ross, Future, Metro Boomin, The Weeknd, A$AP Rocky, and a bunch of other names are in this beef actively as well, I'm going to keep it to Kendrick and Drake. Alright, so let's start. Kendrick drops his verse on Like That, on a tape where Future and Metro Boomin are notoriously going after Drake. It was cool. It was a confident line. To me, it didn't even really need a response. Like, people say they're the best all the time, but, the internet decided to gas it. So now we're awaiting a response from both J. Cole and from Drake. J. Cole decides to drop a track to promote his album and then immediately deletes it. I'm gonna have a whole conversation about J. Cole later. We're gonna talk about that one. But he bows out, cool. In hindsight, it looks great for him because shit definitely got a little messy. But then comes the first real diss. Drake drops Push-Ups. This one, he spends a lot of time on other people, which makes sense because, he is fighting like 10 battles at once with 10 different rappers. But what he does do is make some, hilarious references to Kendrick Lamar being short and wearing a size 7 men's, which is funny enough because that's gonna ring out for a long time. And he names the song Push-Ups to allude to the fact that, Kendrick's label is working him like a dog. His splits are terrible, and he's being whipped into work by his label to hand out features to, Taylor Swift, Maroon 5, or Imagine Dragons, or whoever else that they got him working with right now. It's not crazy to say, because honestly, I don't think Kendrick would be doing his features if he didn't have to. But all in all, it's still light. They still maybe one day could be friends. The only line in there that may have been taken personal was the Bodyguard Whitney line, which is still kind of on brand for diss tracks and for Drake, definitely. Then Drake drops the tailor-made freestyle, the AI, Drake and Snoop Dogg, and Tupac joint. Definitely just trolling, telling K-Dot, come with some quintuple entendres, you're sitting up in that New York apartment, you might as well make use of it. It's funny, it's Drake on the offense, trolling a little bit.
They did what? When? How?
Still friendly though. but I don't think anybody could expect what was about to start happening. Kendrick Lamar drops Euphoria, and the lighthearted tracks that that we were getting from Drake, not happening. He's not playing around. And I think this is the first sign that Drake should have got that we're not doing the same thing here. You're trying to play internet games, and this guy just really doesn't like you.
Woo! That's fire. It's just like fire, 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 fire.
He starts lining up keywords, phrases, and ideas that all the people on the internet that hate Drake feel and have expressed before, and start to garner public opinion behind him. He says things like, "Oh, I'm what the culture's feeling. We hate the girls you fuck." Just starting to play the role of I am the people. It's people versus Drake. And that was the beginning of an uphill battle for Drake. Because no matter how loved you are in, the outer pop culture, the central part of it, hip hop culture, will not do you the same. Kendrick brings up his lost battles before this. He calls him a degenerate, a master manipulator, a culture vulture. He's not black enough. So many different ways that he went about this. And we can see that Kendrick is going for hooks, uppercuts, haymakers, while Drake was earlier still just throwing jabs, thinking they play fighting. And you gotta give him credit, because Kendrick does the smart thing here. Drake is just generally unlikable for a lot of people. I'm not really a fan of hating in that manner, but he did address, a lot of funny points, like, the fake abs that he got from Dr. Miami, or, just all the other things that I spoke about before. But if you look at the lyrics, it starts to dawn on you a little bit that he's trying to take it somewhere where it might get a little strange. And he starts to get more and more into a bag that we can see is not friendly at all. These aren't jabs. He starts to hit into some things that, okay, I can end you if I want to. And here's where it becomes dangerous. He throws in that line about pacifying versus electrifying, which honestly, I don't even think people understood in the way that was meant, but it brought up some very unsavory ideas on the Twitter timeline. And now the narrative is being spun, and it's too late for Drake. It's already happening. And at the time, it was strange to me why he dropped 616 in LA right afterwards. But coming off a track like Euphoria, which was a bunch of uppercuts, hooks, and things like that, maybe he tried to take it light just a little bit, Send out another warning shot like, please don't push me, because this is where I can take it. And at this point, he's already speaking like the voice of truth, the voice of reason, because Drake is not, that high of a moral character. Whereas, as of right now, the people believe that Kendrick is the person to trust. The gloves are kind of off now. You've started something, and Drake is going to attempt to finish it. And there's an emphasis on attempt for a reason. Then Drake drops Family Matters. This is probably one of my favorite diss tracks, just in terms of replay value. I wish he'd have condensed it. I wish he wouldn't have spoke so much on other people, trying to, fight back against the other people that were, dissing him, because they're not the dominant voice here. He's fighting 20 people, but Kendrick is fighting one man, and he's beating that one man as of right now. So Drake just had to fight. All he had to do was drop something that worked, and for 20 minutes, for 16 minutes, Drake was winning. He dropped a great diss track. Kind of just open his mouth. Somebody handing him a Grammy right now. Come on, bro. Where's your uncle at? Your back is up against the curb. Many lines. And when I say it's one of my favorite diss tracks, it was a great night in hip hop when that dropped. A lot about this song went, unappreciated because of what came next. But the flow, the beat selection, the antics in the video, all the callbacks to earlier disses, was definitely a great, well put together track and video.
Drake comes at Kendrick's neck, both professionally and personally.
But sadly, Drake only had about 16 minutes to enjoy his drop, because Kendrick Lamar has been reading The Art of War, and the time when your enemy is the most vulnerable is when they think they have won. 16 minutes after Drake drops and, you know, pushes half of his red button, Kendrick Lamar pushes an insane red button with one of the most eerie diss tracks I think anybody's ever heard. It was actually kind of haunting. Meet the Grams. Kendrick spends 6 minutes and 32 seconds addressing every member of Drake's family and just debasing his character, debasing the whole family's character, just pointing out flaws in their relationships with each other. Just it felt like a okay, yeah, I don't know, man. Some of that information was, a little dubious, but it doesn't matter. Like, even if Family Matters may have been a better song, or, some of Meet the Grams, information was false, there was no time to digest Drake's track. Like, every Kendrick track had days, or at least a day. Drake had 16 minutes, and then we were on to the next one. And the next one was so much more disrespectful that we couldn't have Drake winning at that moment. Honestly, if you just look at the reactions of people listening to Meet the Grams versus listening to any of the other songs in this in this back and forth, it tells a crazy story. And this exchange of tracks was the official escalation into cancel rap.
Meet the Grams was a get up type of shot. Meet the Grams was the most evil, scary song that I have heard in a long time.
Kendrick more so than Drake, but Drake did enter with the last line in Family Matters. If you really break down what it is they're rapping about, you start to see that they're just recycling old Twitter takes about each other and arguing about who's worse to women. Like, and for how manipulative that, each one says that the other person is, it's crazy on both parts, because they know that our social media is ran by women. So whoever can paint the better picture of the other is just gonna win. Kendrick lined it all up, and then he went for the final notch in his plan. The Big Bang. Not Like Us. He's been angling this, this pedophile stance for a little bit, and finally makes it a hit song. Oh my God. But two, how do you come back from being called a pedophile on wax? Like, people on social media make it sound so easy. Oh my God, why would he say that? But there's no way to say anything and people will believe you, especially if you're somebody as disliked as Drake. You can't prove anything. So it's really just say it and move on. And that's what he tried to do. From the start, I'm not gonna lie, this was a beef that Drake probably should have never even touched. Because as somebody that knows that you're unliked on social media, why would you do this? It's definitely overconfidence on his part. But my main problem is, we've taken the Twitter idea that we can allege things just with, some fuzzy evidence and a little bit of feelings that I have, and put it on wax. Drake doubling down and saying, yeah, you beat your wife. And Kendrick gonna say, nah, but you touch little kids. Now we're in a cancel off, and whoever is the most disliked is just gonna lose everything, because that's who they're not gonna believe. When really, these are just two terrible people. But the world just dislikes Drake more. Nobody cared at all what was said about Kendrick. And everybody's just on Drake's ass. Most of the shit is like nonsense. But there's that one video that, there's no justification for that one. But even with that, there's no proof in either direction for Kendrick or Drake for any of the claims made. But social media decided that Drake was the only one that had to clear his name on his next track, or else. So that's what he tried to do. and then they clowned him for it. So, not to say that like he didn't bring this on himself, because he definitely did. Like, just being a sexual deviant in the first place has put you in this position, and this honestly is a lesson for any man watching this right now. Please, it's not worth it, bro. At one point, you eventually will find the wrong one. Just relax. And if you get unlucky enough that your first one is your wrong one, I'm sorry. I know it happens. But your chances get exponentially higher when you start doing nut shit like 1,000 house parties, your very own Tinder, stroking your shit and leaking it. Like, once you start doing all this, freak shit, it kind of makes sense why people will start to look at you like you're P. Drizzy. Especially if, you middle 30s and still fucking on 20, 22-year-olds and shit like that. Like, come on, bro. He responded with, The Heart Part 6, which was a great song, explained that he kind of planted some of this evidence, allegedly, about the daughter that was fake. But it doesn't matter. You lined him up to drop a great song. It doesn't make Meet the Grams that much less of a song. Yes, one part was false, but the rest of it, he still talked to your son as if his father was a creep. You still talk to your father as if his son was a creep. You still talk to your mom as if his son was it's over. You gave him a hit. Before this time, rap beefs attack people's credibility as a rapper, as a gangster, as as who they say they are. But it never tried to paint a picture of some people that were just fabrications or try to get them canceled. Like, calling somebody a snitch, okay, that's fine. Saying they got robbed, okay. You had sexual relations with somebody in their family or whatever. You beat them up. They got beat up. They stole your style. All the ancillary things around these disses that they have said in addition were great. Loved it. Drake steals, Atlanta culture. He may be a culture vulture, things like that. Cool. I love all that. But once you start bringing domestic violence and fucking touching kids together as gotchas in rap songs, what the fuck are we doing? And people on Twitter just eating it up. Like, let's say for a second that this was real, and people are not only dancing and reciting lyrics, but making memes about violent acts that were done to you or to your family members or things like that. Like, come on, bro. What are we doing here? This is a crazy lane for rap to go into. And it's maybe strange to people from other cultures, but in hip-hop culture and black culture in general, things like murders and thefts are way more acceptable to rap about than any violence against women and children. So, like, you can allege a lot of things, but the moment you start putting things like this on people's name, I start to recoil a little bit. Like, yo, let's step back, because as a man, there's certain things that I just can't have associated with my name. We're already living in a super weird time with some strange ideas going around. Just this type of stuff from like respected people, it's weird to me. And I would like to say, please let's stop it, but we already know that's not gonna happen, man. Because it already works so well for K-Dot that it's just gonna get worse and worse. And cancel rap is about to become the newest way to just get your enemies out of here. But that's enough of what I think. What do you think?